When I was a young priest and my hair matched my wardrobe, I remember how I used to dance around this gospel, because it is, in some ways, very challenging. And you can find readings about it. You can find different texts and books that sort of try to explain Jesus' words away and say, well, you know, when he was talking to this Canaanite woman, we don't really understand what he was saying, and maybe dogs were liked better in first century Palestine than they are today, or whatever. But the bottom line is, it's challenging, it's hard, it's a difficult thing to read, and we shouldn't somehow pretend or try to whitewash it and think that it was easy for this woman to hear. That's not to say that Jesus was trying to humiliate her or was acting in some sort of unchristian way. But the point is, we need to sit with what might be a difficult encounter. And maybe this is kind of a Christian spiritual Rorschach test, that it isn't so much about what Jesus says as it is about how we receive it, how we sit with it. And I'd like to suggest that maybe one of the biggest challenges for us is to allow ourselves to be challenged, to allow ourselves to sit uncomfortably with it, to allow ourselves to say, this maybe doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Because for one thing, you have to take the gospel in its entirety, right? Now, it's hardly the case that Jesus was uniformly nasty towards people who were not Israelites. Think of how he talked about the Samaritan woman or the Good Samaritan. Nor is it the case that he was universally disrespectful towards women. Think about how he treated Mary Magdalene, the Samaritan woman again, these unnamed women from Galilee. So all of that is true. And yet still, at the end of the day, it's a challenging encounter. I think we see from the disciples kind of what it would look like to truly be utterly dismissive of this woman. Send her away, they say. And why? Not necessarily because she's a Canaanite woman, but because she keeps calling out, because she's persistent. I think we all know what it's like to have someone come to us when it's complicated or difficult or uncomfortable. And we just wish they would kind of stop and go away. Maybe if we look in the other direction, don't make eye contact, find a reason to not answer the text, whatever it might be. But she's persistent, and it's that persistence more than anything else that they can't take. I think we can all relate to that. So Jesus isn't put off by her persistence, but he still, nevertheless, engages her. And when she persists, then he makes the comment about, I didn't come here for you. I didn't come here for Canaanites. I came here for Israelites. I came here for my people. And she persists. And then he replies in the famous way. He's amazed by her faith. And you see that in plenty of places in the gospel, where Jesus is amazed by other people's faith. When he praises the persistence, he has parables about that. Never give up. Keep asking of God. And yet it's still challenging, I think, to see the encounter. I give Matthew a lot of credit. How easy it would have been for him simply to have rewritten this scene or left it out altogether, but he puts it in there. And he puts it in there probably knowing that it was a challenging encounter, and yet it too was part of Jesus' life and ministry. Somehow it was part of Jesus' salvation. Somehow it was part of how Jesus was even loving in this exchange. But we shouldn't pretend that it's easy. And we shouldn't pretend necessarily that it makes perfect sense. It's okay to be perplexed. But what do you do with that? What do you do if maybe for you, and I won't assume it's for everyone, but maybe for you this is a challenging reading? Well, here's where this woman, this Canaanite woman, is so important. Because we should do what she does. Whatever it is that's in her heart, she doesn't censor herself. She doesn't hold back. She doesn't think, well, if I engage Jesus after he made this comment, maybe that won't be worthy of him, maybe that'll be disrespectful. She looks him in the eye and she says exactly what's in her heart. Why is she there? She's there because of the love she has for her daughter. And she has faith and confidence that somehow Jesus can be of help. Of course, her daughter gets healed. That's what we all want for the people who are hurting in our lives, for the results that we wish could be changed. And we know that it's not always the case that our prayer leads to those kinds of results. But that shouldn't take away from the fact that the Canaanite woman is teaching us how to pray. To look God in the eye. If there's something that you're confused about, if there's something maybe in your own heart where you feel like Jesus has dropped the ball for you, even though intellectually we know that's not what God does, I can think of plenty of times where I felt like my heart was broken. And I've wondered, Lord, why aren't you here for me? You seem to be here for everybody else. But it makes all the difference in the world whether we can voice that concern in prayer or whether we just decide to disengage. The disciples wanted this woman to disengage, but really the only disengaging was done by them. They removed themselves from the encounter. This woman did not get up, regardless of what Jesus said, and walk away. She engaged the one who had come to engage her. And so just a little spiritual exercise maybe, and to ask ourselves if there is something in our hearts that we're not voicing to God in prayer, maybe voicing to the closest person in our lives whom God has given us to trust and love, then to bring it out, to be inspired by this unnamed Canaanite woman, to look God in the eye and say, Lord, this is what I desire more than anything else. Unless we can be that open and raw in our honesty, then we're always going to be holding back a little bit. And it won't just be censoring what we say, but we'll be blocking what we can hear from God. That's the way communication works. At one point, the disciples say to Jesus, Lord, teach us to pray. I wish in this scene they'd look to the Canaanite woman and said the same question, because there's so much they could have taught her if they had only remained to engage. And if there is some area in the gospel or something Jesus has said that you find difficult or challenging, don't hold back. Voice the confusion, maybe even voice the anger if you feel it, because it's only by engaging God that we allow ourselves to honestly hear.
Thank you for joining us today. Our digital ministry provides a valuable service to parishioners and visitors alike. Daily and Sunday Mass, funerals, weddings, and fireside chats, among other things, can be seen locally, throughout the country, and even the world, in real time or at one's convenience. If you would like to support this effort, please go to olphglenview.org. Click on the gold Donate button and then the Sunday Giving icon to make a contribution on our secure online giving portal. We sincerely appreciate your past and ongoing support. Thank you for helping us continue this ministry. God bless.